Okay, welcome. I am Adam Hart,
And I'm Carl Swantoon.
and we are Clear Impact Coaching. Welcome to another beautiful session where we enlighten you with our wisdom.
Hopefully it comes across that way.
Let's wisdomize everybody, Carl.
All right, sounds good. Well, something that came up for us in our group meetings last week was the impact of environmental triggers on just our, way of being and our quality of life. And so when we say environmental triggers, of course, people say, what? Because when people think of wellness and, health and fitness, they think of diet and exercise. So what are the core environmental triggers, Adam?
I think the main ones that come up for me in my own personal history, noise
Yep.
is a big one.
Yep.
I think there's a lot to do with sight, a lot to do with smell. So you think of the core senses.
Right. Awesome. So noise, sight, and smell. So why are those environmental realities that, in our homes, in our business, out in the world, out in the cities, why are they important for us to notice? What can they do to us?
Yeah, well, they impact our quality of life. And
How?
for the most part, this is about the stress response.
Okay.
So there's a natural, innate experience that happens biologically where the body gets triggered by whether it's a sight thing, a smell thing, a noise piece, and it creates a shift in how we are able to live connected to our full health and wellness. And,
right. So before we talk about how it impacts us, because we'll get into that in a sec, just give me some examples. Like when you say noise causes stress, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean,
where does that show up?
My personal example is definitely related to, you think about relationships, and I know with my wife Susie, and there was a big chunk of time where she didn't think I was listening to her, but it was because I was completely in a trigger mode when my kids would be yelling in the background and she'd be asking me questions. The way my triggered stress response to that is I just tune out, and it's not by choice. It's just how the stress response for me was working. And there's an element of, okay, well, I'm doing my best to try and pay attention here, but it's not easy when there's multiple sources of
background noise. Yeah, so too much background noise, competing noise. At home, I think everyone can relate to that with their children. When the kids are screaming, it's like you start to feel stressed, start to feel revved up. Where else can that impact us, where maybe we don't realize it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple. It's just endless. But you think about maybe just even at work. You're at work. There's a little buzz from maybe a light overhead that just has a faint buzz in the background. You don't even realize it's impacting your stress response.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, the noise of traffic in the city. And noise. All the industrial noise and commercial noise. I think the best way to notice that, instead of trying to notice it in the city, is get out in nature and notice the quiet and notice that comparative difference, right?
Yeah.
Huge. Parties, nightclubs, concerts, all of those things where the noise is probably louder and stronger than we're naturally evolved to be okay with, right?
Yeah, it goes against our natural way of being. Not that we want to start to go back to living in caves, but recognizing that our environment around us has many triggers, and we tend to turn to trying to help ourselves by solutions that often don't look at how the environment impacts us as a way to support feeling better.
Right. And so, so we know noise, even though we don't see it as an area of wellness. Noise, how does that have to do with wellness? It impacts us because it creates stress.
Yeah.
Right. And when we're stressed and revved up, and if you've listened to Adam or myself talk in our previous videos, we talk a lot about the nervous system and how when our nervous system's revved up, it's not a healthy place to live. And it's pretty consistent in our culture to be in that state. We want to be in that calm, rest and digest state, right?
I can hear a dog barking in the background. It's making me stressed. There's that noise again.
Yeah, you got a new puppy and apparently not very good at training it because of
hey.
Sorry. So before we get into, we'll talk about some more examples. Noise is a great one. But before we do that, let's talk about, so that noise stresses us out. What are the impacts on us? What are the things that how does it detract from our quality of life?
Well, it immediately throws us out of the ability to be present in this moment because of our innate stress response. So we have
Right.
this fight or flight experience where the body starts to produce adrenaline and cortisol, starts to create inflammation, starts to put us into this state of high alert, and it's very difficult for the brain to function in a focused
That way.
capacity when you're in a triggered state.
So it impacts our behavior, our personal behavior. Like we become irritable. We need to fix it. Kids, shut up. Right. That stuff. Right. Right. Can you tell the kids to be quiet? Can you put them in their rooms and put them back in the handcuffs? No, whatever. And so we get stuck in that, and it's a negative place, right?
Yeah.
Negative place to live. So what's another impact?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it disrupts the nervous system vibration. If we want to get into the quantum physics of this.
Well, I want to know what the result is, though. So because of that, what's the impact on us? Like relationships, wellness, like what other areas?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to have nourishing relationships with others because you're frustrated with how things are in the moment. So it starts to produce this cycle of living a bit revved up, or a bit frustrated, or a bit angry, or a bit agitated.
Yeah, and I think there's a sense, so say we're sensitive to noise, and some people are more sensitive than others. And if that noise makes us irritable, our sensitivity can actually be misinterpreted by our partner or our children as something wrong with them, right? Because they're all revved up. And if I'm irritable and mad, what are you mad at? What's wrong with you? What did I do? What did I say? So there's this, it creates misinterpretation.
Yeah.
And notice that when you see someone else that's being frustrated because maybe they're partially deaf. My father was partially deaf, and he at times would get really frustrated. And I didn't like his frustration. So I would judge him as like, he's hard of hearing. Why is he getting mad at me about it? He's not. He's just sensitive to it. And it's just revving up his nervous system. And I think the last one, Adam, is, the fact that it impacts our wellness. When we're in that revved up state, our bodies don't recover, our bodies don't heal. We don't get the rest we need to, rebuild the energy that we need throughout our day. And so just an overall impact on our wellness too, right?
That's huge. It's huge. Yeah. 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 I keep going back to knowing how I didn't notice this one in my life for so long. And then, when I finally understood how noise was impacting my stress response, and able to then to articulate that especially to Susie in a way where she understood how my mind was working in those moments. It made the relationship so much more peaceful, because she knew it wasn't that I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
It was more
relationship in there. Communicate with your spouse or your partner, right?
And even the kids, but it's just the way that this can translate into everyday life. It's pretty powerful when we start to notice how it does impact us.
So I want to talk about another couple of areas, stressors of environmental stressors. Before I do, I just want to remind our listeners, if you're listening on YouTube, give us a subscribe in the bottom corner button there. And give us a comment, give us a like, tell us what you think about this topic, and maybe add your ideas around it. We'd love to have that engagement. So what about visual stressors, Adam? I think that's an area, again, that people don't recognize. They're being revved up by visual things. We're working with a client right now who's had some medical issues that causing them to be overly sensitive to visual stimulation. And it's fascinating to me, because we don't recognize how other people experience the world. We can only experience it through our own experience. So when somebody can really, in a detailed manner, explain, this is my experience, and it overwhelms me and it shuts me down. Wow, cool. Or not cool, but wow, interesting to understand it. So what are some common examples of visual stressors?
Yeah, and this is an interesting one, because it's not one of mine, but it's one, and I keep using my wife Susie as an example, but it's one of Susie's.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but I think one that has come up in some of our group calls recently too is the sense of clutter. Having things piling up in certain places, or whether it's your house, your office, or in your car. All of a sudden it creates a stress response, and it kind of adds this element of the never-ending to-do list of, I have to clean up all those papers and all those boxes and all that. or the dirty dishes are piling up, or all those
Dishes.
toys
Yeah.
are piling up everywhere. And I
Yeah.
think you think of the home front of maybe if you're stuck in the the renos, and you start doing renos, and that's an element of a visual that I know a lot of folks
Right.
get stuck in renos for life, and it just becomes a
Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
stressor.
Yeah, notice your experience. I mean, I think dishes is a huge one that so many people can relate to. So many people are averse to seeing dirty dishes in the sink. Toys, if you've got kids, but even just dust and dirt. Some people just notice, that table's dusty, or they need it to be a certain way. The window's got streaks on it, or their car. For a lot of guys, the car is slightly dirty. The guy that washes his car every 2 days. And that's a stress response. So I think or it's things that are broken. I think in all of those things, our natural reaction is to fix it, right? Is to, I'm going to change this. I'm therefore going to clean it up, or I'm going to mad at somebody else because they're supposed to clean it up, or, and we're in our revved up state trying to solve a problem that isn't solvable from a revved up state, because it's just going to repeat itself. We're just going to keep attracting that same thing over and over again. How many people out there put your hand up when no one else can see you putting your hand up? If you experience this with teenagers, you're supposed to do the dishes and they never, ever learn. And you get mad at them as many times as you want. It just never sinks in. Well, because you're revved up, they're revved up. It's never going to change. So I'd love to jump ahead a little bit, Adam, if you don't mind. So, instead of reducing it and cleaning up and fighting for our space, in terms of, I want things to be this way and I have to fix all this, what's a better way to address it?
Well, create some peace and calm around it to start.
Right.
Everything's about creating presence. That's where our power is. So.
Yeah, and so I think that the first key thing is stop focusing on what's external and what other people or how other people are impacting on, and start focusing on what is my reactions, what's happening within me, noticing our own trigger, our own getting revved up, our own experience of it, right? That the first thing is noticing that.
Yeah.
And what would be the next step for you, or what would you do if you noticed, Adam? What's your normal go-to?
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, it's creating presence in the moment around what's triggering my nervous system stress response. And at the same time, it's really trying to feel into how I want this experience to be, as opposed to getting stuck and trying to fix it. It's more of how do I want this to feel like in this moment, and let that kind of guide what gets to show up next.
Yeah.
Might not change what the trigger is, but it's going to allow me to at least clean up and heal and reset my energy and my health in the moment, so that I'm the most powerful I can be for myself in that moment.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think a great example is dishes. There's a lot of people that don't like doing dishes. I don't have a dishwasher. I do dishes every day. And it used to be something like, oh, I got to do the dishes, and you see them and then you're lazy and you're doing something else. Oh, the dishes are still there. And, it's a negative emotion around it, negative response to it. And when I was able to shift and say, you know what, sometimes when I'm cleaning up, when I'm sweeping, when I'm doing dishes, I actually really enjoy it. I actually really love that process of decluttering and cleansing and cleaning and organizing. So why is it that I'm reacting that way? How do I want to feel? I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy every moment of my day. And once I was able to notice that and recognize that, guess what? The dishes get done much quicker now, because I don't see it as a negative hurdle and a negative thing. I see it as, oh, I got dishes. I enjoy doing dishes. It gives me a chance to be in the moment and be grateful for owning a cup and having running water and all those things we have a chance to be grateful for. So and so you, with your noise, tell me how you shifted your experience, because you got some young, pretty darn loud kids and a new puppy. I love your kids, by the way, but
thank you.
Hey, So how did you shift your experience around that? And not that it's always constant work, of course, we're in a growth state, but what do you do there?
Yeah. Again, it's creating my own internal relationship to the experience and recognizing my brain's use of the trigger to feed off of my stress response. My brain loves to feel the fight or flight because it wants the adrenaline from my revved up state. It wants the cortisol. then it wants me to go get the cookies after I have that experience because it wants me to keep stuck in that pattern. So it's about cultivating that relationship in the moment with my brain.
How do you do it?
Just by
Like I'm
breathing.
I'm in grade 2. Explain to me how you do it.
Yeah, it's using your breath. It's using deep breathing, and we know we talk about heart flow all the time. And yes, that's the key, is creating a moment of pause to the reaction by breathing into the vagus nerve, cleaning it up. So obviously that's not grade 3 language, but it's stopping the reactiveness in the moment, taking some nice deep breaths and feeling into how I want to feel as a replacement feeling. What that does is it trains the brain to let go of the use of the trigger.
Right.
Next thing
if I'm not gonna get fed anymore, it's like training a Pavlov's dog, right? If you're not gonna feed me when I ring the bell, I'm gonna stop ringing the bell.
Right. And so the brain will eventually let go to the point where you can do the dishes from a place of love and a place of abundance. So you can engage with the screaming kids and the wife who doesn't think you're listening, and in a way where it flows with so much more ease. But it's always about us, and it's always about stopping in the moments.
Isn't that funny?
To help your brain let go of the use of the trigger.
Isn't that funny how when we're revved up, it's always about somebody else? Right? When it's that, it's all this bloody noise. I wish those people are they doing construction next door. And when we're revved up, it's always a pointed finger, whether it's the environment, whether it's another human, or it's just a situation. And when we're calm, we have the opportunity to explore the only thing we're in control of, which is what?
Yeah, it's a immediate result.
Yeah.
When we do it, that correlates into the feeling that we want to have, because that's what you're replacing with in the moment is the connection to how you do want to feel. And that's how you then get to feel. And you just train yourself to live more in that state.
Yeah.
And that's the most beautiful way to live, because it cultivates presence.
So here's something for everyone out there that most of us have a residence, and most of us have some responsibility of cleaning it. And at weekly this or that, or bi-weekly this or that, toilets, whatever it is. Notice what your experience is of that and how you communicate to yourself around it. Oh, I have to clean the house this Sunday. Or, I gotta get to cleaning those bathrooms. And if it's a negative experience for you, knowing that this responsibility is never going to change unless you become so wealthy that you can have maid service every week or whatever. How do I want to experience it? How do I want to feel knowing that I'm going to spend 2 hours a week, every week doing this? What do I want the quality of this to be? And so if we want to transform our quality of life, it's transforming our quality of life isn't about, sitting on a beach 22 hours a day and being fed grapes and someone doing everything for us. It's about living our life and choosing to have quality in that moment and finding the way and the space to create that quality. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. And it's important to know too, as for those of us who have kids, or even in other dynamics, whether it's your partner, whether it's a coworker, when they're going through their environmental triggers,
yes,
it's important that we understand where that's coming from for them, so that we can start. The more we do it for ourselves, the more we hold space for them to have the ability to reset their own stress response. Most people aren't being taught how to do this in this way, in a way that makes it easy to have the result that we want from it, but we can start to hold space for others to have the same experience.
Right. And instead of the revved up response is they're wrong in some manner, or they shouldn't be acting like this, or they shouldn't have this behavior or this stress, or it's something about me, which it isn't. So yeah, when you're able to be calm, you're able to hold space and see other people as the beautifully imperfect humans they are, and hold that space for them to grow, all the rest of that. Yeah. Awesome. I think it's an awesome topic. We'll talk more about it this week in our Facebook group, Holistic Personal Growth. If you're not a member there, please join, as we post lots of stuff like this and other things. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, give us a comment, give us a like, and engage with us. Have a spectacular day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Life is awesome. So are you.